People who metal detect on beaches, in parks, etc. What's your best find? Honestly, the best thing I ever found was a metal mustard gas can, and now it is in a local museum. I got a cheap metal detector for my birthday when I was a kid. To test it out, I took some of my grandpa's coins from his coin collection without him knowing and I tossed them in the yard. Never found any of them. Miss you, Grandpa. I was at a beach in Northern California in the 80s and the guy metal detecting got a hit right near me. He stated digging. Went down about 40 centimeters and came up with a 6-pack of unopened beer cans. He seemed satisfied with that. Never found much with a hand-me-down detector as a kid. But I did end up with the strange habit of burying my toy cars with little notes, with the intention that someone like me excitedly finds them one day. Rip Grandma's backyard in Yakima. Not me. But a guy the first dove within Hawaii told us he makes his living scuba diving with a metal detector just past the wave breaks in front of the fancy resorts. He said he has found 50 Kelvin's gold Rolexes, 4-quart diamond rings, all kinds of crazy stuff. He could have been lying. But I'd believe it. Rich people, covered in sun lotion, jostled by a wave, and oops, there it goes. Back when my neighbor was into metal detecting, I was curious what he could find in my yard because I live in a house that's over 100 years old. So I told him to have it so long as I can tag along. He found some horseshoes, some various metal bolts and pins, and a few other metal objects that were pretty much just bits of scrap metal. But the coolest one was a little steel toy car that I lost when I was a kid. I used to play with it outside in the dirt all the time and it must have gotten buried in mud when the back of our property started to flood and get swampy. Rusted badly. But it was still recognizable. Who's your, I fucking hate this guy? My 30-something-year-old neighbor. We share a property line with this clown. I planted a row of lilac bushes almost 25 years ago and he wants me to take them out because he says they block the sun from his garden. The lilacs are planted well on our side of the property line, but he thinks that his fence was built 2 feet into his property and that the lilacs are really on his property. This has been going on for over 3 years. So I shelled out 3 Kelvins for a survey and lo and behold the property line is exactly where I thought was 3 feet from my lilac hedge. A fence is being erected as soon as the ground thaws. Fuck him. I used to work as a receptionist for an OB office and there was a patient's husband that we all loathed. He called his wife a fat cow in front of the nurse. When she was in the hospital having baby number 9 and needed an emergency C-section, the hospital had to get security involved because he was blocking the door so they couldn't take her to the OR. He refused to let her have a hysterectomy even though she had a lot of medical issues that could have been resolved by that. She didn't legally need his permission, but they were Amish, so she submitted to him. He made her try for a vaginal delivery after a C-section even though it was more risky. He wouldn't let her take insulin for her gestational diabetes. I came to the conclusion that he was trying to make her die without actually pulling the trigger. Physically, he was an absolute monster and I still think about her and wonder if she's okay. 6 years later I still remember her name. The suit guy from Train to Busan. Been a while since a movie made me actually hate someone, but this dude is another level. My ex-boss was a colossal dick. You know, this type who are always right, even when they are wrong. Easily passes you any work they deem hard while having this mentality that you are some kind of computer-controlled drone who exists to telepathically know what he needs and when designed to serve him. Guy had this belief that everything can only be done right if done his way. Anything else is faulty even if it's done properly as it's dictated by the client. I still remember this event. I was upside in an attic fixing wiring when I hear this conversation below. Asterisk X boss. This was made the wrong way. Umbral disappointment is such a useless worker. How can he not understand such a simple task? Asterisk boss 2 enters the scene and is not aware of the previous complaints. What's the matter? Did John? Other worker. Did something bad with that one? Asterisk X boss. John did this? Asterisk boss 2. Yeah. He just finished an hour ago. Something is wrong? Asterisk X boss. Nah. It's perfect. Tell him it was good work. My brother's uncle. I refuse to claim him. He's an alcoholic and a drug addict that put my grandparents through hell. Some of the gems he said to his mother's face. Why don't you just give me my inheritance now? Why would I want to ruin my Christmas Eve by spending it with you? Then once she died, it was oh boo-hoo. Swore he would put family first. He then proceeded to treat my grandfather like shit. And because Grandpa lived with me, I saw it firsthand. He would say he was coming over on Sunday. So Grandpa would be up at the crack of dawn ready to go. And would be sitting watching out the window like a kid who has divorced parents and is waiting for his dad to show up for his weekend. He would sit there all day. And then be heartbroken when the fucker didn't show up and never called. Listening to my grandfather cry because he was so upset made me see red. Then once Grandpa died, it was all boo-hoo poor me all over again. Since both of my grandparents were now gone, I ripped into him and told him exactly what I thought of him. That was 13 years ago. And it still wasn't enough for me. Recently he told his probation officer that he lived with me. And gave his PO my address. The PO then comes to me looking for him. That was a fun conversation. He's a pathetic, worthless, waste of oxygen. And I hope he dies cold, alone, and painfully slowly. These are just a couple examples. But don't even scratch the surface of what a piece of shit he is. Subscribe, my brothers.